And welcome back to the podcast with Jay Mara and myself, Jacob.
Hey.
And hey, and we've actually come up with a name for the podcast. So from here on out, it will be the Cinema Corner Men podcast, or at least until we come up with something better. But I
I
kind of
like it.
like the way, I like the way it sounds too.
Men
Kind of,
including women.
yeah. Yes, we'll be in the corner, coaching on movies, if you will, telling them what we think they're doing good, what we think they're doing bad, and general notes and ways that we think that they could improve. So
That's right.
I like it. I like the idea behind it. Yeah. We don't have too much of an introduction for this one. We kind of went over all of the stuff in the last episode, so be sure to go watch that if you want to know who we are, anything like that. But yes, Jamar, what are we talking about today?
So we recently watched Dunkirk. Drum roll.
You can't do the drum roll after you tell me what it is.
Oh my gosh! Yeah. Whoops. Next time I'll do it better.
Yes, we watched Dunkirk.
Yeah.
It's a couple years old now, but still a pretty good movie. Oh,
Is
before
it
we
years?
yeah, I think it came out 2017. I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, 2017.
Yeah. Before we start, I didn't mention in the last one, and probably won't mention in subsequent. Well, maybe I will. I don't know. There will be spoilers for this movie. Mostly minor spoilers. You know, we're not going to just sit here and summarize the whole movie, but you know, we're obviously going to be talking about it, big points and such. So we just advise that you go and watch it first, and then come back and talk about it with us.
Yeah.
Cool. Dunkirk was directed by Christopher Nolan, one of the powerhouses, if you will. I didn't even write down what other things he did. You know, Inception. He had the Batman movies. Pretty big name, Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
And,
Interstellar, Tenet.
Interstellar. Yep. I haven't seen Tenet yet.
Nope, not yet. That'll be coming up soon.
Maybe we'll see. This movie also had it was featuring Tom Hardy, Mark Rylance was in it, Kenneth Branagh, Harry Styles. Yep, Harry Styles made an appearance. Bunch of big names in there. So I guess whenever you're Christopher Nolan, you can get anybody to be in your movie.
I mean, who wouldn't want to be in his movies?
Exactly. Jibmar, what'd you give Dunkirk as an overall rating?
Overall, I gave it a 7.
A 7?
I did.
That's fair.
But
I gave it about a somewhere between a 7.5 and an 8.
Okay.
There was quite a few things that I liked about it. There were a couple things that kind of threw me out of it. So somewhere between there.
Makes sense.
Yep. So for the theme and the takeaway of the movie, did you have anything? I had a couple points.
Not really. I mean, it was based on a true story, right? Or no?
I believe so. It didn't say, you know, based on a true story throughout the whole movie, but
Right. But I mean, it was
I
something.
do believe it was real events.
Right. So I didn't really know what the takeaway was supposed to be. I thought it was just telling a story. You
Right.
know?
Yeah. I agree.
Um,
Yeah, it didn't really have much. It was more just like an adventure of a real life event, I
Right.
guess. I have a couple notes here. I was kind of pulling at strings with these because, like you said, it wasn't like forthright. One of them was like winning is not about just, winning is not about just beating the enemy. It's about doing the right thing. Another one could be like risks need to be taken to help others and yourself.
That's true. I could get that.
Yeah. And then the last one was a true leader does not leave any man behind and will risk his own life before the lives of others.
I don't think I got that from this movie.
The places I got it from were as Farrier. I'm gonna say Farrier. I'm not sure. The main pilot.
Oh, just
Tom
him.
Hardy's character.
Yeah.
I got it
Yeah.
from him, and I also got it from Commander Bolton. Whenever everybody else left, and he's like, "I'm not leaving till the French leave." That kind of
Well,
thing.
that was more of like I guess, yeah, that could be a takeaway because he did grow into that conclusion. At first, he was like, I don't care about the French. But then at the end, he was like, okay, I'm staying. I'm going to help them.
Yeah. Some like I said, it was kind of pulling that string. You kind of had to really search for those takeaways, but
Right.
that's all I got for that.
Okay.
What about some good things? What do you think was good about this movie?
I have a few good things. So my first thing is character. So I loved the character Gibson. I don't know why. I think it's because he shocked me so much, and I feel like I'm good at telling like what the character of the character.
Gibson was the one that was burying the guy at the very start. The first time we saw.
Yes. So when I first saw him, I was like, okay, he's got to be some sort of like spy. He just killed this guy. He's burying him. He's taking his clothes. Like, this is strange. And then throughout the movie, I had that, idea of him in my head. So when he's going through and hiding and doing all this stuff, I'm like, okay, yeah, he's got to be some sort of spy. But then I don't know. They surprised me in the end when we found out that he was actually just a Frenchman trying to get off the island.
Yep.
So I love that though. Like, not many things can surprise me, and that definitely surprised me. So I really love that character.
That's a good character. Yeah, I liked him.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, it was just mainly like a shadowy figure that we knew that he was pretty good at sliding out of every situation he was put in. So yeah, we came to that conclusion that he was like trying to sneak in rather than just trying to sneak out.
Right, but it was confusing because when they were on the boat and all of them were locked in that room, he was outside of the boat and he went back and saved them. So then that's when I was like, wait, is he a German spy? Because why would he save them if, he was German? So then that was like, it made me confused, and then, finding out at the end. So I think the character itself was written like perfectly because it's supposed to confuse you, and it definitely did.
Yep. Completely agree. It was a interesting point. Some good things that I saw. The sound effects in this movie were absolutely phenomenal. Probably one of my favorite. I'd even like characterize them as a character because they everything from like when they were in the plane and the rattling of the metal to where it sounded like like the plane was just barely being held together as it was flying through the air. The bullet sound sounded really good. There were ticking clocks throughout the whole thing. Just the overall atmosphere that these sound effects created in the movie, I thought was very, very nice.
Okay.
And I guess going along with that, the soundtrack itself. It just felt like whenever I listened to it while I was going over my notes for this movie, and it had that feeling of like a constantly rising tension and like dread was intertwined with it. You know what I mean?
I don't remember that.
I mean, while I was listening to it. If you go listen to it, it does feel like a very, almost like a thriller movie would have, where it's like really like building the tension in the music. It had a lot of ambience in it,
Right.
Which it felt like it sort of pushed it further into the background. It made it more of a feeling than like an in-your-face music piece.
Yeah, you're saying you listen to it again by itself without the movie.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. So okay, but during the movie, like I don't get that. Like
yeah, you didn't even notice it, right? You just felt like the tension and stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Yep. It sort of like helped. Another good thing of the movie, it kept me on the edge of my seat for the entire time. The movie was what, an hour and 45 minutes, I think, long. It didn't feel that long. It didn't
No,
feel
it
too much
didn't.
shorter. I guess it felt like maybe an hour and a half movie ish. So it wasn't too much shorter, but I enjoyed it throughout, which was nice.
Hmm.
Rather than other movies that just had a good first scene and that was it.
I did like the opening scene of this movie, though.
Um, did
It
you?
it was completely different from the actual movie itself. Not completely different, but I don't know. It felt because they were, being gunned down and running, and
Mhm.
I was like on my seat, kind of like that adrenaline type thing, and then it kind of slowed down for me. I don't know. I know they were still being shot at like at certain scenes in the movie, but it was still a little bit slower.
Mhm.
But I did like the opening scene, and he's like,
Yeah, that one was interesting. It went from like nothing, like really like no tension, and then you saw the paper of like we have you surrounded. You're like, what does that mean? And all of a sudden they just get gunned down,
right.
the street. And you're like, oh my God, they're surrounding them. Like
I think that
just
was a good way
jumps.
to introduce the character, like the
Uh,
main character.
yep. I I thought it was kind of an odd. The only thing that I thought was odd about it was that in that first scene, it seemed to me, it seemed like those were like his people, if that makes sense. Like his group that he was there with, that he
It
was,
was.
fighting with, and they all died, and it didn't seem like he was phased by it that much. So
I mean,
maybe
if
that's just
it's
how his
war,
character
they
is.
just. I think that's. I don't know. I've never been to war, but I feel like the characters. Um, that wasn't odd to me at all.
Okay, fair enough. Could have just
Yeah,
been me.
they could have just been seeing people die all the time, and they could be, grouped in different groups,
Sure,
you know,
maybe. Yeah, yeah. Maybe
or
he
they
didn't
could
know
have
them
all
well.
been from different, right, and they're
Yeah.
just there in the same space at the same
Maybe
time.
that's just how this character is. He just knows, I need to get out. That's what's important. Maybe the rest is not to him. So,
And you also don't really want to focus on that,
right,
you know,
that's fair.
if they were close.
Yep. Let's see what else. My favorite storyline. I'd divide this story into about three different storylines. I think. You had like the what's his name? Tommy.
Hmm.
You had Tommy's uh, Farrier. I'm just gonna say it like that because I don't know exactly how you say that. But Tom Hardy's character, and then
Hmm.
you had Mr. Dawson, the older gentleman with the boat. I think those are the three main storylines in this.
Yeah,
Um, Farrier's storyline for me felt I liked it the best. It
that
was
was my
between
favorite.
his
I was
and
that's what I
Mr.
was going to say
Dawson's.
too.
Mr. Dawson's was pretty good too.
His was good, but I think the pilot's was a lot better. Um, just in terms of like connecting.
Sure.
So like when he came back to save them, like I was after his gas went out and he like flew around and came back. That's when like I I just it was at the end, but I was just so stunned. I was like, okay, this is the character just seemed awesome. And then also when he landed and then set his plane on fire,
Yep.
I was like, yeah, I like
That,
this
that, that was
character.
probably my favorite scene in the movies or sequence of scenes. I think that you could probably divide that up into two different scenes, but those were my two favorite ones in the movie.
Yeah.
Whenever he was out of gas, he turned around and saved them from the German plane, and then yeah,
Yeah, because like he was already gone. So like he already saved them once. So then he flew away, and then out of nowhere, the German planes came back after all of like the people came with their boats and stuff.
he was
And
already out of
so
gas, and he was
and he was already like flying the opposite direction, and all of a sudden he just comes back. It's like, wow, yeah,
he
that
had
was
multiple chances to just leave, and he didn't take any of them.
right. Yeah, he stayed in.
So yeah, that was my favorite scene right there.
Hmm. I like the boats too. When all of the normal people started coming in, not the navy.
You talking about when they were cheering them on? as they like drove by the other ships?
No, when all of the Englishmen and women showed up with all of the little boats at the beach, and everyone
Yeah,
was, yeah, what do you mean cheering them on?
I thought like if I'm remembering correctly, there was like one boat that was filled with people, and as the civilians were driving their boats by,
Oh,
they were like cheering
yeah,
them on,
I
yelling and
don't,
stuff.
yeah, I didn't like, I mean, the boat was whatever, it was boat. I'm talking about when all the people on the beach were looking at all of the people in the boats,
Right.
and
Okay.
then they were cheering, and
That was your
yeah.
favorite scene.
No, it was just
Oh,
a good scene.
what was your favorite scene?
I think the opening scene.
Oh, that was your favorite one. Okay, I'm sorry. I missed you saying your favorite
Yeah,
one. Okay.
that and the pilot. All of the stuff about the pilot,
Yeah,
those are my favorite scenes. But the boat one was really like
a good one. That was
emotional
a good
one. Yeah, like a good emotional scene.
um I did think that the way they had all three storylines like come together was cool. Like if
Oh, them going
like
back in time too.
yeah, if you were
That
like
was
paying attention, you could like catch glimpses of like what was happening from like different perspectives. And,
right. I
it was
loved
just
that.
an interesting way of bringing all three of those storylines into one, while also giving like this all encompassing view of like everything that was happening in the area at the time. I
Right.
liked it. Yeah, I thought it was very well
Yeah.
done.
I remember just seeing a scene and then, thinking, "Oh, maybe that's like Mr. Dawson's boat." And then like, 10, 15 minutes later we find out that it was and then we actually see what
Yeah.
happens.
Uh-huh.
I think that was a really good way of connecting them in our minds because I mean it's an hour and a half movie and you're showing us three different situations and people, so that was a really good way of doing it. The back in time thing though, like it was kind of shocking at first because I didn't realize it was back in time until um, like a little bit later, so it confused me a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
That probably could have been smoother, but
Yeah. I mean, we'll get into some of that more in the bad section, but
yeah, I'm done with good. We can go to bed.
well, I got one more thing for the good section. The thing I really liked the last thing I really liked about it was the villain, which were the Germans. I thought it was great, um, because they were never really like placed. Like you never saw a pilot, you never saw a soldier until like the very end. And even in the end, you never really saw their face. So it
Hmm.
wasn't like you could point to them and be like, they are the antagonist. It was more of this like looming threat that you would really only like hear or like see in a plane. So
I
it made
think
it
that'd be
feel
like,
like oh sorry, go ahead.
go ahead. No, yeah, I think that'd be realistic.
Right, yeah, it made it feel like almost like they were completely surrounded by like if you can imagine this like a wall that goes like 600 feet up in the air and it's just slowly like closing in on them. Like that's what it felt like, more so than like, oh, there's like six people over there that are the bad guys. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Right. I thought that was a really good way to like increase the tension without having to like just make it like one. I mean, at no point in time do we have any like intel on what they're doing or what the Germans are planning, except for that one time where he's like, they're just sending the planes at us. They're not trying to advance their tanks any further. That was the only time we were like got what their plan was,
Right.
which I thought was interesting and I liked it. That was it was like I said, a very interesting way to increase the tension without like forcing us to be mad at one person.
I agree.
But yeah, that's all I got for the good. And I'm sure there was more good. This movie I thought was overall very entertaining throughout. But those are the main points.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
I like the movie.
For the not so good. And maybe I'm wrong in this. Um, I think subsequent viewings of this movie would have one of my problems was that the character development for me was somewhat hard to follow, at least at the start. And like I said, if I were to go back and watch it, I'd know all these characters, how they were by the end of the movie, and I'd understand them more, and it would probably make more sense. But I'm not, I'm not a fan of having to rewatch movies to get the point of what they're trying to do. I understand that it's a Christopher Nolan thing to do. That's kind of how he makes his movies. But
What character specifically are you talking about?
um, like I said, I think his name was it's Tommy. At the start was I didn't even understand what he was trying to do until like halfway through the movie, and even then it was kind of like, why is he doing what he's doing?
What did he do? To me, he was just trying to get home like everybody else.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I didn't even really realize that's what he was, because it made it seem like he was like the ultimate main character and that he was going to be trying to do something or save someone at some point in my head. So I kept trying to put it together, and it just didn't feel like it was coming together as nicely as I would have liked.
I think that that's probably just because of the separation of focus. Like they put main focus on like 3 particular situations,
Yes.
and so in the beginning you see him first. So you're like, okay, he's gonna be the one that's gonna go through something. Like he's gonna, we're gonna see him most of the movie, and then we saw him like a third of the movie, and so that's probably why it felt like, he didn't really develop as much because he only had a certain amount of time in the movie, and he wasn't really doing much. Like he was just trying to get home, and so, yeah, I could see where you would feel like that. But I think that after they started introducing all these different scenarios and scenes, then that's when I was like, okay, like it's not about him.
Yes, I agree completely. And like I said, if I were to rewatch it, it would probably make complete sense, and I would get it from the start. And
Right.
like to me, like I was paying attention, right? It's not like I was sitting here on my phone or I think we were like eating dinner while we were watching it, but other than that, there was like no distraction, and still it would require more than one viewing for me. So maybe that's just me, maybe. But to me, like if I'm telling a story, I shouldn't have to tell you a story more than once for you to get it.
But I think, okay, I see what you're saying. I didn't feel that way at all, but I understand why you felt that way. I don't feel like I have to rewatch it in order for me to understand it, and I feel that I went into the movie thinking that it was based on a true story, so I knew it wasn't going to have the same effect as something they made up.
Fair enough. That's fair. I did not. I went into
Okay.
it. I went into it knowing I think it was based on a true story, but I was expecting like a. I'll give you another example. And I just lost the name of the movie. Unbroken, the one we just watched. Unbroken. That was based on a true story as well, and I didn't feel confused or lost at any point in that.
Unbroken.
Yes. It was the movie where the guy they're stuck on a boat or on like a raft for like months.
Oh,
And,
yes.
yeah.
That was a great. Oh, yeah. Right. You weren't lost, but it was following him the whole time.
Yeah, it was just him, so I could see that, right?
Yeah.
And whenever you tackle something like 3 different storylines, full storylines, all in the same movie, it's gotta. For example, I wasn't confused with not Interstellar, Inception. Whenever we watched it, I watched it the first time and I got everything that was going on in it.
Well, you're probably the only one because I had to watch it like twice.
So maybe it's just reversed for us. So,
Yeah.
fair enough.
That was all for me. I don't really have anything.
No bad for you. Oh, interesting. And these things aren't really bad, right? For example, in like Wonder Woman, whenever we went over that, I thought there were some like bad things, like stuff I would not
Right.
do. These ones, it's more of a.
Like it
I
wasn't
sort of
as fast, or it could have been better. Like it wasn't like anything bad to me.
Right. Yeah. right, nitpicky stuff, and it's just this is just kind of for me to fully analyze what it is I don't and do like about movies. So I went into a lot of thought about it. But,
Right. It's not just this is a bad
right.
movie.
Exactly. Yeah. Um, another thing on the bad section that I had was I felt like there was too much tension, if that makes sense.
When?
Just throughout the whole movie. And I understand that's kind of what they were going for, to like
Right.
build up the tension, build it. But it almost felt like gimmicky to me. Like the lows, they didn't feel like a relief from that tension. Maybe that was the intent,
I
but
think that was the intent because I liked that about it.
fair enough. The
Yeah.
only example I have is like whenever they're first encountering the German planes, and they're like dogfighting with them, and they get one, like they take one out, and they're like, oh yeah, and then like everything goes real quiet, and they're just flying, and then all of a sudden they get hit again, like they're just flying for like 10 seconds maybe, and all of a sudden there's like do 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 do, and there's like 6 shots on the side of his plane, and it's like it ramps it right back up to where it was, and to me it just felt like it was
That's
trying to.
realistic.
Sure, yeah.
But continue.
Yeah, to me it was almost like a like whiplashy, like it just kept like shaking us around, if that makes sense. But like you said, I guess now that I'm thinking about that, now that I'm thinking about it, um, they were trying. The people in this movie are probably feeling pretty whiplash themselves. So I guess it was just trying to put us into their shoes.
Exactly. That's exactly what I think of when you say that. Is they were trying to put us in their shoes in their situation, and there's no relief. I think that's the point. Like there's no relief, and they have to keep going until they're home. Like so, that's just on edge, on edge, on edge, scene after scene after scene.
Yeah, fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
The only other thing I have, Peter and George and Mr. Dawson. So the older gentleman. Peter was the blonde older kid that was on the boat with him as
His
they're
son.
leaving. That was his son, yeah. Was
Yeah.
George his son too?
No.
Okay. See, I didn't know what his relation was to them.
George was just a friend.
Oh, okay. There's probably like one line that said that, and I missed it.
No, he was just saying like go home, George. So it's just someone that they knew.
Okay,
They weren't related.
I see. Because that sort of relieves this from being a bad thing, more of just a general note. It was the show Don't Tell thing came back into effect with him a little bit in his. I didn't understand why he was explaining to his brother that, because I thought Peter was his brother. I didn't understand why he was explaining to his brother that he was like nothing special at school, and like it seemed like something that Peter should already known. That makes sense.
What do you mean?
That he was nothing special at school or in the town, and that he was going so that maybe they would put him in the paper, is what he said. Something along those
Oh,
lines. And I didn't understand why he was having to explain that to them. Like why he was just saying it, because I thought they were all family, but
no, they weren't family.
okay. And that makes a lot more sense why why him and Mr. Dawson didn't really seem personally connected to George's passing.
I mean, Peter was pissed.
He was mad. Well, it was like his friend died, right?
Right.
And I was like, why is he acting like his friend died when his brother just died, or when Mr. Dawson's son? It just didn't.
Right.
I went
Yeah,
through the
you
whole movie
just
thinking they were all related. Was the problem with that one?
right.
So okay. Um, I have a couple just general notes here, and then yeah. There was very little dialogue, which I thought was interesting. I mean, there was quite a bit, at certain points, but then there was a lot of points where it was just like, whenever I think of a standard movie, I feel like they're talking almost the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
In this one, there were like long stretches where it was just acting, and I liked it. It made me feel like every word that they said was more important whenever they did speak, which I liked.
Okay.
And I guess we went over the other stuff, so we can skip to what I would change about it. And
Okay.
then, a small thing at the start when it said like 1 week and then like 1 day and 1 hour.
That was confusing.
Right. It was confusing, and what I would change it to would be something like 1 hour out or 1 hour left.
Right. I
That
was
makes
like,
sense.
are they 1 day in? Are they 1 day out? Like, what's going on? 1 day
Exactly.
what?
Yeah. And then along with that, maybe have it all leading up to like one central like point in the movie. Like kind of something that I didn't like was it seemed like all of the emotion, like we had three storylines, right? And they
Mhm.
all have like emotional endings to them. Um, to me, that's what like we're rooting for them and we're hoping they get it. And for me, it spread each of those endings out into like into its own like ending. So none of them, they were all impactful a little bit, but they could have all been like extremely impactful if it all happened like at once.
What do you
And I
mean?
realized it felt so we had the storyline with Mr. Dawson.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the climax of that storyline was whenever they were getting um, Tommy out. Yeah, Tommy. Whenever he was being dragged along in the water, and then he like comes
Out of
to.
the oil. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Uh-huh. So that was the end of both of theirs. So that felt like pretty impactful to me. But then it split that off from the ending of um, Farrier's story. Like their ending happened, and then it wasn't until like 10 minutes later before Farrier's ended, before he like landed the plane. Is that right?
Right.
So it just felt like, and I realized like the timing would have been weird if they both were happening at the same time. But it just felt like it was like stringing us out a little bit more. I would have liked it to be condensed
I didn't
into like
see
one
those moments as endings. Like on the
or
boat.
climaxes of the movie is what I meant.
Oh. I don't think that was his climax at the end of the movie for the pilot.
When he landed.
I mean, that was a big,
Hmm. What was it then?
moment,
Oh, was it
but
whenever he turned around to
that's what
stop
I'm
the
thinking.
bomber? Oh, okay.
Because we thought he was gone. So then for me his story ended, but then he came back. So that was like, oh, wow.
Right.
You
Okay.
know.
I could see that being
So
a big climax. Okay. Yeah. If you see that as the climax, then yeah, he shot the plane down. The plane, prevents it from killing absolutely everybody. Um,
right. And that was
and then
closer to when Tommy
Mr.
was pulled
Dawson
out of the
saves
water.
Tommy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So it could have been that. I don't know though, but there are a lot of yeah, I don't know.
Because if that was the climax, then for me it was even better whenever he shot that last German plane out of the sky while he was stalling from no gaseline, and
Right.
then he lands it as he's pumping the
The
landing gear
tires.
out. Like
Yeah.
that to me is like edge of your
I mean,
seat.
yeah, we were on the edge of our seats like, "Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, is he going to like crash and burn?"
Exactly.
So, yeah, I think he had multiple.
Sure. Okay.
Mm.
Yeah, and to me having the multiple like that, it sort of strings it out a little bit too
Yeah.
much for me. But I guess that's personal preference. So that's just what I would
Hmm.
change. Um, yeah, and the other two we've already kind of ironed them out. To me, just not realizing things, I guess.
Okay.
So that's pretty much all I got for the movie.
Nice. Another one down.
Yeah, I enjoyed this movie quite a bit. I did. Like I
I
said,
did
8 out
too.
of 10 is really high in my book. It takes a lot to get it higher than that.
Yeah, for me it was a 7, but only because war movies aren't really my favorite, but this one actually kept my attention. So
See,
the 7's pretty good in my
I
book.
didn't quite like war movies, so I guess I had a little bit of bias there.
An extra point.
Sure. That's about all I got, though. Any last words, remarks, Jima?
No, I've got nothing.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for listening. Like I said again, if you have any suggestions for movies we should watch next or anything that we got wrong, let us know. I'll be happy to talk about it.
We didn't get anything wrong. These are our personal opinions.
Well, I mean, maybe we missed different things in the movie that happened.
I know.
I guess kind of like how you pointed stuff out to me in this episode, even. So,
Right. Yeah, let us know if we're wrong.
yeah. Yeah. Thank you all for watching. See you next time.
Bye.